All right, guys, I'm Katya, the social media person here at CyberMark, and today we're here with Brittany West for her 10-year interview. It's super exciting. She's been here 10 years now. She's the senior marketing director here, and she has plenty of insights for us. So let's dive in.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
So how's your day going today?
No, it's going. It's Friday, so that's always good. Glad we moved into Friday.
Yeah, right? I feel like it's been an interesting week.
Yeah, we have internet today, so that's new.
Yeah, that's
good.
Pretty exciting.
Usually you want internet at your digital marketing agency.
Kind of necessary to get the job done.
Yeah.
But I think we survived it pretty well.
Yeah, we did. We made it through. We just all went home yesterday and made it work.
All right, so my first question for you today is, throughout your 10-year journey at CyberMark, how has your view on digital marketing evolved?
Oh, that's a good question. It's good because I think everybody's understanding of digital has evolved, because when, 10 years ago, digital it had started, it had been around for a little bit. CyberMark was cooking at the time. We were making websites, we were doing a lot of SEO. A little bit of social media. This was around when Facebook was just starting to put those pages out there for the businesses. Businesses were just starting to take notice, and we were just starting to get the questions of, do I need to be on the Bookface? Do I need to be on MySpace? Should I be on the Googles? And yes, of course, you should be on the Googles and the Facebooks and everything else you can be.
And the Bookface, right?
And the Bookface, the Bookfaces.
That's very important.
Yeah. But I think one of the interesting things about digital is that even though the technology and the method of delivery has changed, we've gone from kind of a world where it is very analog. We use the yellow pages, we use our local directories to find things. The internet starts to get more popular, we start to use that in that capacity, right? We're looking up businesses online, we're getting their phone numbers, we're getting their hours, to now where you have kind of internet as an entertainment industry. So you have people who are browsing videos all day on their phones, or reading articles, or shopping. So I think really just the way consumers have used the internet has changed, and our understanding of how to market to those consumers has evolved along with it. But some things always remain the same, right? Like you always want to produce helpful content. You always want to make sure your business listings are up to date so people can get to you and not be mad, when they show up and you're closed. So I think it's one of those really interesting things where everything has changed, but at the same time, nothing has really changed.
I think a really interesting thing you said right now that's probably going to stick with me for a while is that it changed into entertainment. And I never really processed it that way, because everything evolves so slowly you don't even realize you're in the deep end until you look up and you're like, wow, I'm drowning. And definitely social media especially is such a way to kind of just get involved with the community, watch videos. It's like the new TV, and we're just interrupting with commercials all day.
Yes, it is. You go from binge watching your sports or your television show to instead you're just gonna watch like 100 30-second videos on TikTok, and the ads, it's definitely a lot more pervasive. And one of the interesting things that I've watched over the last 10 years is we went from kind of ads being everywhere. You had that horrible pop-up period time. I don't know if you remember that, right? So
not a fun time.
Before ad blocker was really big, everywhere you go there's just big pop-ups. The fonts were terrible, and it looked like those websites. Those were fun. Those were fun times. But you go from a very, very ad-populated digital landscape to one that's not as populated. Social media became more popular. Advertising didn't start right away with Facebook. They took a while to work up to it. You go from Google being very focused on the organic listings to now, when you go to Google, it's ads all up and down the page. So I think that's the other thing that we've seen is, along with users using those platforms a little bit differently than they did in the beginning, you also just have a lot more kind of advertising, and it becomes just a lot more pervasive. And I
definitely think it's more natural now. Where, like you said, those big mean pop-ups that were just smacking you in the face, where now it's like a user-generated content. It's a lot softer, and I think that's definitely a better angle. Because I don't feel like I'm being invaded. I'm like, wow, that's a cute outfit.
You gotta go take a look at the video, and you're like, is this sponsored? It kind of feels like an ad, but at the same time, maybe not. So
it's really interesting to see how it evolved.
I mean, like I said, old things become new. Really, nothing changes. If you're still putting out very intrusive or annoying or ads that people don't want to see, you're still not going to see any impact, you know, and it just doesn't matter what you do with that type of ad, you're just not going to see it. Versus if you're putting out helpful content, you know, maybe it's not an ad, maybe it is, who cares? At the end of the day, it brings people to your business.
As the leader of CyberMark's paid ads team, what was the one campaign that left you like, wow, we really nailed that one?
Ooh, the one campaign. I don't know that there's been necessarily one. You know, we've had a lot of really good ones over the years, but one of my favorite kind of phenomenon that I've ever seen happen, and it's happened 2 or 3 times now, is we'll get a brand that we're working with, we're getting their ad campaigns all built, and we're kind of working, you know, we work with corporate at that big level. We get that strategy developed, we get the creative developed, and then we push it out to locations. And this was our first time with this brand, so brand new offer, new creative, no testing or anything. And for reasons like they were unable to advertise on their own or with another agency. It was very last minute. It was an emergency that we had to get them up and running within a month. And we were able to get all locations up and running with localized ads. And that was cool. That was an accomplishment, you know, to do all of that in a month for a big brand.
Yeah.
But then when we saw within hours, we started to get leads from the campaigns.
Wow.
And it was like, okay, all right, we're on to something here. You know, it's good to see early results because you don't typically get that. You know, it's rare to see a campaign take off right away. So
yeah, I know we talk about so much about how marketing is for the most part the long game. So it's very interesting to see how quickly that turned around and just wow.
It was like, all right, we're live, and right away results coming in. So that was very cool. Hopefully we'll see that more with other brands in the future. Who knows? You know.
How do you think with the evolution of social media, the way that we interact with platforms and the way digital marketers interact with platforms has changed?
Timely question with Twitter's fall and the rise of threads last week.
Yeah, I joined that because, you know, social media.
Of course, you have
studying.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
It was great for the first hour because it was only industry people on there. So everything in my feed was industry related, which I love. Social's going to continue to evolve and change. Who knows what's going to happen when you can take a platform and, you know, buy it and kind of it becomes not popular overnight, right? Users are a little bit more volatile on the social media. So they're going to go, you know, wherever they are more comfortable or where they have people that they want to talk to or where they want to spend their time interacting. And I think that's the really important thing to remember about social. It's not about you. It's not about your product. It's not about what you want to push. It's where are those users? What are they doing on that social platform? How are they engaging with it? And why are they there? You know, if I'm on Reddit, for example, right? You know, typically people on Reddit, they're there for information or for community or to talk about topics. Really not shoppers on Reddit. That is not what those people are for. But if you're on Instagram, you're browsing, man, that is a good time to see that cute dress that you were looking at last week, or, you know, as you're browsing through photos of your friends' puppies and their babies, and you see, oh, this local restaurant opened up around the corner. I'll go try that. You know, it's just kind of putting that seed in your brain, because when you're on Instagram, you're browsing it in a very different way than somebody who is on a different platform. And yeah, I think you can say that with any of those examples. You know, you're not going to treat TikTok like Facebook, and you're not going to, you know, treat YouTube like LinkedIn. So I think it's just knowing your audience and seeing how those evolve and where your audience is migrating to.
Interesting. And you know, just because you're right, it is like such an opportune time to talk about this, and I did already kind of see like quite a few companies and businesses migrate over to Threads, and the way they're using it is actually very entertaining. The voice, the tone, it's very different than all the other platforms, especially with this little Twitter thread war going on. Very fun to watch. But they're already, you know, a lot of the e-commerce people are already posting things up, and you know, I'm like, and they're getting me. I'm over here looking for the link, like, okay, but where do I buy it? Because they don't really have that in Threads yet. So I'm like, all right, let me go through that annoying journey that we used to go through, look it up online.
Find the product.
Where do you see that going?
I think with other platforms, so with Facebook and Instagram, for example, Google as well, they're not technically social, but they're trying. They try to get in there. We've seen usability be one of the most important things that these platforms focus on. So if you're trying to drive somebody to a shopping experience, with Facebook and Instagram, you have product catalogs. They want to keep you on that platform and purchasing while you're on Facebook. So you don't leave, they don't lose your tracking. You're able to complete that purchase with as much convenience as you can. With these newer platforms like Threads, we don't know. Presumably, those creators would shift those platforms in those directions to make them kind of as, there's a balance between user-friendly and advertiser-friendly. So I have to imagine that they're going to probably work on developing that platform to try to give the best of both worlds for the advertiser and the consumer. But it's hard to tell. I mean, Threads, for example, is a Meta product. So it'd be probably easy for them to say, all right, Facebook ads can now show on Threads, right? So for them, they might not have to reinvent the wheel, but
everything from Threads definitely seems to be kind of copy and paste from Instagram. From what I've seen, the way they import all your users, import all the things that you like, which was kind of interesting and convenient. You didn't even have to make a login, so that was cool. With all of that in mind, do you think it's a viable platform for some of the service and products that our clients offer?
I think it's too soon to tell. With all the social platforms, they've all rolled out in a certain way that their creators had in mind for how users would interact with those. But then users didn't interact with those platforms in those ways. MySpace, for example, we were all supposed to get on there and be friends with Tom, right? Yeah. We're gonna say hi to Tom, we're gonna meet with our friends, we're gonna make our own kind of personal profile. But it became a real big music sharing and music discovery site for bands, because you could play music on there.
Yeah.
Facebook was a college networking app. And that's turned into
I don't even know
all
what
of what Facebook is now, right? So I think it's too soon to tell. The early ways that I'm kind of seeing people use Threads, it might make sense for some very niche businesses so far. Threads is a conversational platform. So the idea is that you're posting your content and then you're going to talk to people in your thread about that content. So it can make sense, I think, for some industries, but just like those annoying ads, if you just run in there with a big red ad and you're like, click here, buy my stuff, you're not gonna get very far.
So with the constant rise of AI, what challenges and what opportunities do you think we face here at CyberMark?
It's a good question. AI, a lot like Threads, it's one of those newer things, it's one of those buzzwords that everybody's throwing around. I think what would be really important for CyberMark, but also every other agency and every other business out there, is really understanding what AI is and what it can do for them and how it can help, and try to not kind of think of it as something that it's not. So I'll go into a little bit more detail there. AI is a great way to augment our abilities as marketers. It's a good way to come up with additional questions or to make variations of headlines or figure out creative ways to maybe say something in a way that we haven't said it before. It gives us a lot of ways to very quickly test copy. It's a language learning model, right? That is currently what AI's biggest use case is for. It's for language learning. So I think you have a lot of opportunities to augment natural marketing skills, a lot of the creativity that comes out of that with AI. There's also, I think, opportunities for AI within the programs we already use. All the advertising platforms already use some AI to show ads, right? Because, in the old days, you would just tell Facebook, I want to target women between 35 and 44 who are interested in sports. Okay, cool, you can still do that, but you don't have to anymore, because Facebook can take all the information from people's profiles, figure out who that person is, and then decide, maybe they're not going to react to your ad at 9 a.m. on Facebook, but if I show it to them at 3 p.m. on Instagram, maybe then they're going to convert. So you already rely on AI in a lot of ways to make some of those very targeted decisions, to run your ads, to optimize your ads. I think you'll continue to see marketers augment their skills with AI to make more variations and be more creative. But there are areas that AI really cannot fill in for, and that's where I've seen advertising programs that are 100% AI, and very much like 100% AI stock buying programs, they just go out there and they'll push the ad everywhere, and they're trying to get you the lowest like cost per click or
Yeah.
something. Okay, that's might not be exactly what you need. So, as far as opportunities go for AI, it's fairly limitless as that industry evolves, as the tools evolve. We'll continue to evolve with them. But as far as challenges go, I think there are many, and they're all kind of just tied to this being a new tech. We don't know yet. The people who have published ChatGPT, they don't tell you how that algorithm works. You don't know why it's coming up with the things it's coming up with. And when you are trying to run marketing campaigns, it's kind of important to understand the whys. So, I'd say for any agency, the challenge is to just watch out for untested tech trying to do maybe too much that a human is better suited for at this point, and thinking that it could possibly replace a human just for insights or for, even coming up with campaigns. I remember our team event, we had we asked ChatGPT to write us a commercial, remember, for the break room. Boy, that was not a good commercial. So
oh my gosh, it was so corny.
Like, it might have worked if we'd said, this is an AI commercial, look how corny it is.
Maybe we should do that. This is
We
AI.
might want to.
This is CyberMark with AI, improved.
Maybe.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I think it's just too soon to tell. It's something to keep watching, and as marketers, you just have to figure out kind of how to leverage it to augment your skills. But don't try to take shortcuts with it yet. It's not ready.
Yeah, we definitely saw that with the commercial we tried to make.
Yeah.
How do you use AI in your day-to-day work?
I use it a lot of times it's for just kind of sparking my brain. I get stuck in some writer's block sometimes if I'm coming up with ad copy, or maybe I'm trying to figure out a different way to explain a product or a service so that it's more digestible, it makes more sense, or maybe it's to a different audience. So I use it a lot for that, and I'll ask ChatGPT a lot of questions and usually go through about a dozen iterations of an answer before I've kind of built my own based on that. And ad headlines is one of our biggest use cases. Those we're able to test those fairly rapidly, see what kind of results we get. Ad copy a little bit too, but really it's just because there are only so many ways you can explain a product, so it helps to add some extra variety to the mix.
Interesting. How do you think content marketing contributes to brand authority and building long-term customer relationships?
Oh, that's a good question. So by content marketing, just for anybody who doesn't know, you're referring to kind of the combination of like all the blogs, articles, videos on your site, social media, influencers, kind of the whole...
Yeah, the whole bucket, video, text, images.
Content marketing is one of those things, it's one of those industry practices that's old and will always remain relevant. It doesn't really matter what technology you're using or what your delivery system is. Content marketing is one of those things that brands should have always been doing before digital and can always do regardless of where they are. And the reason that you want to do it is because you need to produce valuable content for your users that's helpful for them, that they are actually wanting to engage with. If you have a website that's just full of copy, it's very keyword spammy, it's written to try to attract the Google algorithm or whatever search engine, you're trying to write it for a machine so that it prioritizes your site. If you do that, humans are going to get on your site and they're going to read your content and they're going to say, this doesn't make sense, this isn't super helpful, I don't feel a connection here, maybe I'll move on. Whereas if you are, as an industry leader, you're providing quality content on your site, people can get there and they know that they can trust what you've written, whether it's about the product or maybe it's about the industry, whatever your product is in. If you're providing helpful tips to people or giving them something that they can take away, and either it provides them value because it's more education, or maybe it gives them value because it gives them some tips that they can use, or maybe it helps them with their next purchase. Those are all things that consumers will remember and they'll come back to your brand, versus just getting onto a very generic spammy site that has no social presence. You're not going to be inclined so much to do business with them, much less remember them. Whereas if you're, maybe you're in the market for plants, right? And you visited 2 websites. One of them was a garden center website that had a lot of helpful videos about starting your garden and what you need to do to prepare for your new plant and all this other stuff. and the other site is just a very spammy page about potted plants in Phoenix and why you should come to their potted plant warehouse in Phoenix, and potted plants in Phoenix are so great. So you can see a difference there,
yes.
right? You're gonna trust the first site that has the helpful video that you can learn with, you know you can probably go to them with questions, versus this other site where, you might not really want to engage with them quite as much. They haven't put the same care into their content, you know?
That definitely makes sense, and it definitely aligns with Google's new helpful content algorithm that they put out not too long ago, but kind of a while ago.
Yeah.
And I remember everybody kind of freaking out online about it, and I was like, isn't this what we're supposed to be doing anyway?
Yes. Yes.
And so with that
100%.
in mind, like, as long as you're doing good content marketing that is helpful and that is for your consumers, do you really think any of the algorithm changes will affect brands negatively?
Negatively, it's hard to say. With all these platforms and algorithm changes, you never really know, and you don't know when something changes and maybe you start to see your traffic go down. You might not know if that's the result of Google punishing a site with an algorithm, or maybe Google is not intending for this algorithm to be doing what it's doing, or maybe there's something else that's a factor that you don't know about on your site. So with any kind of algorithm change, you know, I think it's just important that you understand what that algorithm is going to be doing and what's going to be changing, and how your site is specifically set up to handle that, to judge that. But then I'd say, as far as your like impacting your strategies for the future, no, an algorithm change, it really shouldn't impact your strategy at a high level, right? You should always write helpful content, or always film content that's helpful, or provide helpful posts or whatever. You should still be doing that no matter what. But what might change as a result of the algorithm is, you know, maybe you need to start doing something slightly differently, or maybe you need to focus on a certain product that, you know, you haven't given as much love to, or, you know, there's a lot of other things that you might change, but at its core, your content strategy of producing good content shouldn't.
Can you share a valuable lesson or insight that you've learned during your time at CyberMark?
There have been many. It's every day, usually a few times a day. One of the big ones that my old boss used to say was, don't miss the forest for the trees. And that's something that's always stuck with me, because in digital advertising especially, we have so much visibility into the nitty-gritty of these campaign details that advertisers before never had. You know, if you're running a television commercial, you know how many people on average typically watch that television program during that time, but you're never gonna know exactly how many people saw it, how many people engaged and came to buy your product because of that commercial. With advertising online, I think because you can see a lot of that user journey, a lot of times we take that for granted and we get very focused on the nitty-gritty. You know, we might be focused on getting the lowest cost per click for a particular keyword, or driving down the cost per lead in a particular market. But when you only focus on that one side of things, you're kind of missing all of the other ways that users can interact and engage and become a customer. And you might be missing out on the bigger picture of the business's goals as well. You know, your goal might be to generate as many low-cost leads as you can, but if you find out that the client is getting a lot of leads from organic sources or social sources or word of mouth, and they really might need their advertising strategy to complement the other results that they're getting, you know, with that, maybe you're not going for the lowest cost lead. Instead, you're looking at that bigger picture. You're working with that client to say, okay, we need our advertising to be really impactful, so we're going to go after more expensive leads that are very targeted, that are very qualified. They're going to cost way more. They're going to be so expensive, but they're going to convert a lot better, and that's okay because you're getting a lot of your business from other areas. So for, you know, really anybody in the industry, what I'd say is just don't get hung up on one metric. You know, don't get hung up on the individual trees. Look at the whole forest and see how that's going, and figure out where your different strategies all fit into that. And remember, online is only a small part of that anyway, because there's a whole bunch of stuff people do outside that we can't measure, and we never be able to measure it.
All right, so as we're going over your experience and all the insight that you have, what is some advice you can give to aspiring marketers in the industry?
It's a good question, and this applies, I'd say, for anybody, like whether you're doing advertising or social or content marketing or just even building websites. Always be curious, right? The second you stop being curious and just kind of let everything go stagnant, that's the second that you stop getting really new data in, you stop getting new ideas coming in, you're gonna see other things start to go stagnant as a result of your marketing going stagnant. So it's important that marketers always are curious, they're always asking questions, always looking for kind of opportunities or an in to do something different or better, or even just to try it. You know, a lot of times, especially with these advertising platforms, you have no idea if a strategy is going to work until you get it out there, start testing it, and then maybe after a couple weeks you go, okay, it's not doing quite what I want it to. What are some other questions I can test? And then you improve it, you optimize it, you grow it from there. And you're really, it goes back to the scientific method from, you know, when we were all in high school.
Yeah.
You always just want to, you want to have a hypothesis, you want to go in there and start testing, and you want to measure the results that you get. And as you do that over and over and over again, what should happen is you really develop kind of your standard set of best practices. These are strategies you can roll out, and they're going to work pretty much wherever. But you also know what are the right questions to ask later. Once that campaign's up and running, my job's not done. What are the next 3 things I need to be asking about this campaign? What are some ways to move it forward? Now, obviously, it might not apply on some levels. You might have campaigns that have very small budgets, or maybe you're very limited geographically. That's okay. Sometimes you figure out all the things that you can do for one platform, and then your questions become, again, don't miss the forest for the trees. You start to think about, okay, our ads are as good as they can be. We've got social on lock. We have great organic content. Now what else can we do? Oh, maybe I need to go look at some local influencers. Maybe I need to look around local businesses and partner with them and figure out some offline areas. Like, there's always an opportunity somewhere, and part of marketing is just looking for it.
That's super interesting that you had mentioned about the curiosity for me, because now that I'm thinking about it, I do think that's your approach on literally everything since I've been here, including problems. Every time that I teams you, like, Brittany, I don't know what's going on. Interesting. And I'm like, you know what? That's not the answer I need right now. But I'm glad that you're like interested in the problem. Yeah. And I think that's so great in the sense that, like, even when problems arise, I'm over here panicking internally because that's the person that I am, and you always have this cool demeanor where you're just like, okay, like, let's find out. And it is interesting to you. You're always willing and ready to build a new hypothesis based off of the changes. Like you said, the algorithms are constantly changing, so it makes sense that our hypothesis also has to change.
And you'll find, sorry in advance, by the way, once you've been in this industry for a while and you've been working with Facebook support or Google support, or just even trying to figure out answers to some of these things, sometimes there isn't one. Sometimes Facebook will just make a big change and not post any support articles about it, nothing, and you just have to kind of figure it out as we go. And as marketers, I'd say probably your second most important quality behind curiosity is flexibility. Because on the digital side, stuff changes. Facebook's layout for me has changed probably 3 times this year, and that's the norm. It's always been that way. So, come in prepared for who knows what's going to be flipped on its head the next day. Just be ready to kind of dive in and play around and figure it out.
So I know that you're a gamer.
Yeah.
And I know that one of the big games you play, because I hear you talk about it around the office a lot, is World of Warcraft. Mm-hmm. I don't know anything about it, but I hit up my friend ChatGPT, asked him about it.
Oh, perfect. ChatGPT is an expert. I'll tell you.
He's great. I should really stop calling him a he. I don't know what he is.
It's fine.
But with that said, if this were a boss raid, if CyberMark and your whole journey here was a boss raid, what raid would it be? What battle would it be? And how would it represent your challenges that you've conquered here?
It's a good question. So I'll give you a little bit of background on raiding, just because you're new to it, and yes. I'm sure like anybody watching this, there's maybe like 3 people who might understand the raids. So just give you a little background. A raid in WoW, at least in the one I play, it's you and 24 other people. you've got to go down and face a series of bosses, maybe some other types of encounters, but typically it's boss fights. So this one raid is called Serpent Shrine Cavern, and it's in the Burning Crusade, so it's older. Sorry for any retail players, I don't know those raids. Those are probably harder ones that might be better examples, but so in this raid, the final boss is called Lady Vash, and she's this big old snake lady. She's real mean, she yells at you. And one of the interesting things about this fight is that you and those 24 other people to all be doing your own jobs correctly at the same time without dying and communicate with each other to make it work. So you have a couple people, they're in charge of tanking. So what they do is they need to be ready for when monsters spawn to go grab those so that they don't run around and kill people. You have people who are in charge of healing. It's pretty obvious, their job's just make sure people don't die. They do though. You also have a group of people that's responsible for playing like hot potato. There's some spheres that spawn, and you've got to play hot potato with like 4 people all across the arena. Now, mind you, the entire time this is going on, you've got people that are taking mobs, you have people playing hot potato, trying to throw and talk and coordinate across the field. You have other people that are also trying to clear out some of their own objectives. So it's just chaos. And this is only a couple minutes into the fight where everybody's got to split off and you've got to be responsible for your own job at that time. You've got to be doing what you're supposed to be doing. Nobody can come and handhold you or babysit you. You've got to do your job so the guy next to you can do his job and the gal next to him can do her job and so forth. You also have to be kind of prepared for the unexpected. So this boss is a little bit interesting because she can do some very unfair mechanics towards the end of the fight. She points at a person and it's like, you're mind controlled now. And she can do that to your really important people who have jobs that they're doing. She'll spread poison everywhere, she'll stun people. So it's a fight where a lot can go wrong very quickly if you're not paying attention. And in digital marketing, it's very similar. You have to show up with a bunch of other people because no man's an island. There's so much to digital. So you need your website person, you need your social person, you need your writers, you need your advertisers, you need somebody who can kind of bring all of that stuff together and lead it. So you have to take all those moving pieces and everybody's got to come and do their part and pull their weight and kind of contribute to it. And if you all do it together successfully, you win. But if you have, maybe people who don't show up or who, maybe you have a Facebook goes down, you're like, this is the example of where the boss is just unfair. Facebook is an unfair boss a lot of times, but they'll go down. Or,
Facebook is Lady Vash.
Facebook is Lady Vash. Or you'll have Google, declining things or algorithm changes. Like there's just so much unknown. But if you and your group stick together and hang through it and persevere and work together, you'll win. But if you don't and everybody tries to do their own thing without coordinating, you lose.
That's awesome. I really like that. It's going to stick with me all day as well. I feel like this has been super interesting to talk about.
I know it's probably not like the best analogy, but I'm like,
No, it works.
It's one of those ones where you've got so many moving pieces and agency life, for anybody who's done it, it's hectic. There's always so much going on and no day is the same. So
this is actually my first time working at an agency and it's been a very interesting journey so far.
A lot of fast learning.
Gotta learn on the go for sure because there's just so many moving pieces to it, especially having clients. I've never had that before, so I'm just like, wow, it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of fun and I love our team so much. Like I've never felt more myself than I have here.
Yes, and the team is huge. This is one of those, when I compare it to Lady Vash, our team, my raid team, we took weeks to clear that fight. You only get one attempt every week. Really. Wow. So just weeks to clear it, just spending a few hours every week trying to do it. We finally were able to do it, and then it was easy. We could do it every time, no problem, without wiping every time. That's what
awesome.
CyberMark reminds me of a lot is, you have everybody who's very specialized and very skilled in their own specific areas, and when we build a program with the franchise program, for example, we can bring it all together, and even though it was, it took a lot of planning and work and figuring out to build this product, now that we're all together and executing it, it's easy for us.
Yeah.
Even though sometimes it's hard, but
I mean, every now and then, Lady Vash comes and goes, oh, your Facebook is suspended.
Yes.
Hey, cool, we'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. If I can't, one of the other 24 of us can.
Do you have a first day story?
I really wish I had if I had to go back and do it all over again, I think I would have definitely come in with some more chaos energy, or maybe like, I don't know, maybe unleashed a bird or something in the building. It was pretty low key, you know, my first day. We were just a few miles north of here at our old building, just a little bit smaller than we are today. You know, very, very quiet office. You go in, everyone's just kind of plugging away at their work. And that's what everybody's first day story is, it sounds like, is you come in the first day and it's very, very quiet and everyone's doing their thing. But by the end of the week, I definitely learned that it was not a very quiet place.
What happened during the week?
Oh, dude, people just warmed up and you know, everybody got kind of used to each other. But yeah, a lot of teamwork early on, a lot of camaraderie. The old owner had their dog that she would bring in, and also a parrot, so it was noisy some days in the office. It was a little bit Wild Westy back then.
Which is why you wanted to add to the chaos.
Of course.
With like another bird.
Of course, you have to have chaos. No, you just need a good first day story, and unfortunately mine was very boring, but it turned out pretty well.
That's awesome. Well, just, you know, to see if there's anything interesting we can pull, what was your first team event like?
Ooh, the first team event. Oh gosh. Okay, so we went to, there were a few that were early on that I remember. One of them, this wasn't the first one, but it was pretty early. We went and we did like ice hockey, kind of, but it was just with regular shoes on an ice skating rink and brooms.
Oh my
And
gosh.
a ball, and we were like playing hockey on the ice with the brooms and our regular shoes, like sliding everywhere.
Oh my goodness, how many times did you fall?
I felt like once or twice. A couple of people definitely had it way worse. It was so fun though. Like some people were out there, they were like, and like, oh, we've got some professional hockey players in Arizona apparently from that. And you're like, okay, maybe those people a little bit competitive.
You know, I did hear about Gordy.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, very competitive. I don't remember if he was here yet at that point, but this was kind of early on.
Yeah.
So we've done so many fun team events over the years.
That is awesome. All right, is there any last words you'd like to say before we
Last
end it?
words?
Well, not last words ever, but for the interview.
Here's to another 10, I guess.
All right, let's
Yeah,
go.
thanks for doing this.
Thank you.
Yeah.